A day may not seem like a long time, but many things can happen during the course of a day. Many, many things.
A gray kind of day was beginning in Seattle. A little girl named Rain was leaving a coffee shop with her mom. This was also Rain's kind of day because she got to wear her favorite rain gear, which included her big, bright pink rain boots and hooded light purplish blue-gray raincoat. As they walked down the sidewalk, Rain jumped forward into a puddle with her oversized boots, and then leaned forward to catch the misty rain on her tongue. She looked at her mom and smiled. Her mom smiled back and said, "Love you lots, raindrops." The little girl laughed and said, "Love you lots more." Then her mom said, "Well, I love you more than all the raindrops in the sky." Rain looked up at all of those raindrops falling and began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She quickly gave up because there were far too many. But as she counted, a few of the drops actually looked just like little hearts falling from the sky. She thought to herself, "Wow, my mom loves me a ton." Then her mom added, "That's why we named you Rain." And at that moment, it started to rain a little bit harder, which made both Rain and her mom smile.
And on that gray kind of day in Seattle, for a girl named Rain, those many drops of water really were hearts.
At the very same moment, a perfect weather kind of afternoon was winding down on a hilltop outside of Minneapolis. A little boy named Forrest was on a camping trip with his dad. Forrest loved camping because he got to use his camping canteen, heavy-duty hiking boots, and oversized alpine backpack. But what Forrest loved most about camping was the time he got to spend with his dad. After a perfect morning that included hiking, rafting, and fishing, Forrest and his dad set up camp complete with campfire. Once finished, the two sat down to light the fire and roast marshmallows. Forrest looked over at his dad and said, "Thanks for taking me camping, Dad. I love camping with you as much as anything in the world." Forrest's dad smiled and put his arm around his son. Then the two looked up at the trees all around them, and Forrest said, "Do you love camping with me too, Dad?" Forrest's dad looked up toward the sky and said, "Do you see how many leaves are up in those trees, Forrest? Well, I love camping with you as much as all of the leaves." Forrest looked at all those branches carrying all those leaves and began to count. He quickly gave up because there were far too many. But as he counted, some of those leaves began to look like little hearts to him. Forrest thought to himself, "Man, my dad really loves camping with me." Then Forrest said to his dad, "I'm glad you named me Forrest, Dad." Forrest's dad smiled and said, "Me too, bud. Me too."
And on that perfect weather day in Minneapolis, for a boy named Forrest, those many leaves really were hearts.
At that very same moment, a windy, bright kind of day was winding down on Sunshine Key. A little girl named Shelley sat with her dad on a big warm blanket, watching her mom and little brother walk along the shore. Shelley pulled her curly blonde hair away from her face, looked at her dad and said, "I love you guys even more than I love the beach, Dad." Her dad placed his book on the blanket, smiled and said, "Thanks, Shelley. We love you too." Then Shelley looked down the long shoreline. "How much do you really love us, Dad?" Shelley's dad thought for a moment, then reached down and grabbed a seashell off their blanket. He held it up and said, "Do you know how many seashells are on this beach?" So many," said Shelley. "Well, I love you guys more than all of them." And after that, Shelley's dad placed the seashell in her hand. And when she looked at it, that seashell really was heart-shaped.
And on that windy, bright kind of day in Florida, for a girl named Shelley, all those many seashells really were hearts. And at that very same moment, a typical kind of partly cloudy day was winding down in an Atlanta park. A girl named Anna and her little brother Mateo sat on the two sides of a seesaw. They loved the park more than just about anything. And on this day, as they tipped up and down, they both happened to look up at the many, many clouds in the sky at the very same time. Anna smiled, and out of the partly clouded blue sky said, "Love you, Mateo." Mateo looked up, smiled, and began to count the many clouds. Then he said, "I love you more than all of the clouds in the sky, and more than all of the trees in the park, and more than all the leaves on the trees, and more than all the trees in the forest, and more than all the forest." So, at that very same moment, all around the world, in every type of weather and every type of place, at every time of day, many, many hearts were counted all around the world. Far too many hearts to count.
There are a lot of times when a lot is more fun. You can't walk in a forest with just one tree.
Love forever when you never forget. Love is always, love is
Love is simple, love is love for love. Like summer days and lemon sunshines. Sometimes one is more than enough. Love is always something more.